Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. We have an esteemed speaker today, so we will start our program immediately after this.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm Heba, and I'll be giving a brief introduction about AMP. AMP is, which stands for Association of Muslim Professionals. It's an NGO which was started in 2007 by just 4 members. And they had the intention in the head to give back to society in order to bring the benefits in a larger group. The foundation for the AMP was laid to with the intention in the head to empower underprivileged and to form a robust society and work together for the progress and development of our nation, India. AMP was first registered in India as AMP India, and Alhamdulillah, it has now grown and registered in USA, UK, and Australia. AMP's primary focus has always been on education and professional empowerment. However, apart from this, we also focus on economic awareness, social responsibility, and recognition. We have completed 13 years now, and we have a vision to impact more than 10 million lives by 2030. Going to next slide. In order to see anybody's achievement, it's important that we analyze it through the stats and number that has been achieved over a period of time. And here what AMP has achieved since its establishment. So AMP has different multiple chapters within it. I'll walk you through each of them. The first one is the skill development program. In skill development program, we conduct SDPs in schools, and we benefit the students by taking subjects like career development, moral science, career planning, examination preparation, soft skills training, and many more. Apart from that, we also conduct teacher training and parenting workshop, which ultimately benefits the student. So basically, we are working on the core of the society, which are students. So here AMP has conducted more than 2,800 plus skill development lectures in 800 plus schools, which has ultimately benefited 281,000 students across the nation. AMP has also conducted 110 plus teacher training and parenting workshop under this chapter. The next chapter is employment assistance cells. In employment assistance cells, we conduct job drives, job fairs to increase the employability. Here we have conducted 360 plus job fairs and job drive, which has led to 220 plus, which has led to the employability of 21,000 employment. And we have also conducted trainings under this chapter, which is more than 220 plus, which has benefited to a total of 17,000 plus degree students. The third chapter is scholarship and self-employment. Here, with the help of the Zakat funds, AMP helps the student in order to take the higher educations. Here there are multiple applicants which comes to AMP. Most of the scholarships are given on the merit basis. Here AMP has helped 800 plus students with the higher education scholarship, and has helped 860 plus orphan students with their education fee. We also try to empower families by setting up their small business. So here AMP has empowered 425 plus families to set up their own business. The fourth chapter, which is AMP Resource Center. As we know, AMP is an association where there are multiple professional people who comes ahead together and work for the society. So taking that in the head, we take the advantage of these humongous professional volunteers and members base at AMP, and we leverage this knowledge by setting up an online career counseling center. AMP right now has 660 plus career counselors, whose contact details and availability are given on the official websites. There are 2,500 plus students which has counseled till date. We also distribute different documents which help students in their career guidance. So we have distributed 50 documents on career guidance, and 1,500 plus career charts were distributed. The fifth one is our awards and partnership. It's very important to not just work for the society, but to also encourage them so that they can keep on going doing the good work. So here AMP recognizes and acknowledge the people from the community in different domain and award them with the AMP awards. For example, every year from the past 5 years, AMP identifies 100 teachers across India who goes beyond and above to deliver education and help students to battle their tough situation. So these are the 5 chapters, and these are how AMP has contributed till now to the society. Going to the next slide. There are multiple new digital initiatives that has been done by AMP recently. This was done mostly post-pandemic, where people across different sectors from different places were hit hard due to the deadly disease and the lockdown. In this tough situation, AMP came ahead and launched 3 digital initiatives. The first one was indiazakat.com, the second is indiamentors.com, and the third is amppowerjobs.com. This was done in order to battle this tough situation and bring ease in people's life. And Alhamdulillah, definitely it's doing, and I hope it will be doing in future too. The first, which is indiazakat.com, was first launched last Ramadan. And it is a first Zakat crowdfunding platform which brings Zakat seekers and Zakat givers together. Here, AMP does a thorough background verification of the Zakat seekers. This phase is usually neglected by the people, but we are keeping in head and we do a thorough and crucial background verification of the Zakat seekers, which helps people to give their Zakat without any hesitance. The second one is the indiamentors.com. The indiamentors.com helps in development of professional community. That was the main intention, and it does by bringing in the concept of mentorship. Here, a mentor who is an expert and well versed in his field chooses 5 mentees and groom them for a period of 3 months. The third is amppowerjobs.com. This is a free portal where the professional list the job openings in their organization, and the job seekers can directly benefit from it. Can we go to next slide? AMP basically has a very solid ground presence now since the last years that we have achieved. Here we have 140 plus active chapters which are spread across 26 states, and these we are also spread across 16 countries, and right now at any moment of time we can have a 6,000 plus active members. We also have and created an online presence on different social media platform, and we have more than 1,25,000 of presence over there. Can we go to the next slide? So this is all the details. If you want to know more about AMP more in details, this is our official website, ampindia.org, where you can visit and see all the chapters and all the details about here. Here, I would like to urge all the participants to come ahead and join the AMP. If you are willing, if you are someone who is interested in serving the community and the society, with spending a very few hours at your convenience, and if you want to make sure that you are not just serving this dunya, but you're also making your akhirah better, I guess you should definitely join AMP. So, please do reach out to us. AMP is a volunteer-based organization, and we are always in a need of an extra hand. Thank you, everyone. Over to you, Khalil Bhai.
Jazakallah khair, Sister Hibba. It is my honor to introduce the speaker, but I know that you are here to listen to Mohammed Nadeem Saab, the Chief Executive Officer of Paharpur 3P Private Limited, and not to me. So I will keep my remarks brief. Mr. Nadeem has over 30 years of experience in the flexible packaging industry, working in India and the USA. He keeps shuttling between the two. He holds a master's degree in industrial and systems engineering from Ohio University and an executive MBA from Kellogg, one of the most sought after business schools in the world. And he began his career with packaging dynamics and advanced through several roles in strategic planning, operations, finance, and sales and marketing. He worked for Alcan Packaging and Terex before joining Paharpur 3P, where he is currently the Chief Executive Officer. Mohammed Nadeem Saab, please take over the floor and share your thoughts with us.
Thank you, Khalil Bhai. Good evening and assalamu alaikum to everybody else inviting me to give a little talk. I have to admit, usually I give a lot of speeches and conferences and other professional situations which are more tailored and have a very simple subject in my mind. What you have asked me to do is actually very daunting, a little awkward and challenging for me to talk about. I am a very private individual, and I guard my privacy. And to talk about my life or my career progression is a little daunting. So I don't have any specific slides set up. I don't have a PowerPoint presentation to dazzle you guys with, but just share my my story, and hoping that a lot of those guys who are going through the same thing that I went through will pick up some learnings along the way. And so from that perspective, I don't have a presentation per se, but I'll speak about my chronological history for a while, and most likely the main points would come out in Q&A. So that's where I think I would add value or help you guys, those who are going along in this journey, who have just started looking for jobs, or who have just started jobs, or they're starting their career progression. So I'll share a few things where where I was in different situations, how I faced those situations, how I adapted to them or improvised, and my hope is that one or two of those things stick with you and help you along. So just to give you a little background about myself, and again, my talk's not going to be very long. I'm hoping on Q&A part. But I was born and raised in a very small town called Roorkee, and in a very humble family, very modest upbringing. And when I graduated from high school, there really wasn't a support system in my family that could guide me to do next what. We did not have any engineers in our immediate family. My dad is a Bachelor of Arts graduate. He did not have the right tools to tell me what. There were no coaching tools like we have today. So I essentially wasted the first year after high school, trying to sit in various entrance exams the way it is in India. And also, although it is a very insignificant detail, but I bring that point up because a lot of the kids get hung up about the fact or the reason that they have lost 1 year of their life in their career. And I'll talk about it and expound upon it later on a little bit more. But after I graduated with an engineering degree, I did not know what to do. and a lot of my friends were going to US. So I decided to join them. I said, I'll do the same thing. And those friends had support system in US. I did not have a support system in US. And, but my dad was very supportive. And he said, that's the decision you are making. That's what you want to do with your life. Then good luck. So when I landed in US in 1990, I had $300 in my pocket, and I had a check given to me by my brother-in-law for the first semester fees. I had no idea where to go, how to even go from the airport to the college campus. Did not have any friends, did not have any relatives. So I was pretty much on my own. And that brings maturity in a hurry, when you have to survive on your own. So over the next 2-3 years, I did whatever was required of me, worked small jobs, cleaned tables, dishes, cleaned bathrooms, toilets, worked as a chef, got a research assistantship, essentially supported myself through the college throughout my master's degree. Now, as I was about to finish my degree, I had married. And again, another insignificant point here, but a lot of the times the young kids get into a situation where when they're asked why you're not married, and the first thing is, well, I don't have a job yet. And I'll talk about that later on as well. But we were expecting our first job, and I did not have a job, and I was just graduating. So I started applying for jobs, and I sent out more than 200 applications, and I could not even get a single interview. I essentially have 200 plus letters of rejection that I still keep as a token of honor to show to my kids. But essentially, all the jobs that I applied to, I got a rejection letter saying, you're not qualified, or you're overqualified, or we're looking for somebody with more experience, and so on and so forth. So as the months went by, a real sense of desperation kind of enveloped me. How I was going to provide for my kid and my wife. Am I good enough to get a job in the US? What's wrong with me? Why can't I even get a single interview? So all these dark clouds of self-doubt, they start to surround you. And you stop believing in yourself, So a lot of young kids who graduate and are applying for jobs, I'm pretty sure they go through similar experiences. Now, how I coped with it was that every day I would start as a fresh day. This is the first day I'm applying for jobs, that I've never applied for a job before. This is my first day. And I kept my hope and my momentum, and did not let that bother me. I did not let the rejections bother me. Now, I'm a firm believer in taqdeer, that Allah sends your way whatever is He is going to send your way, and no one can stop that. And whatever He is not going to give you, nobody can give it to you. So, completing my thesis, I was actually working at a local company, a flexible packaging company. And my thesis involved applying expert systems into quality assurance. So the president of that company was a little impressed by my work, and he offered me a job. So I was not expecting a job from that company. I was expecting to go into a different field. But since this is what came along, I grabbed it. I jumped on it. And, it was a temporary position, but I took it. It didn't pay much. That didn't bother me. And for the next few months, they put me through shift work, day shift, afternoon shift, night shift. And then there was another change of job to production planning. I took that. Then there was another job that opened up in the company for customer service, and they told me to do that. I took that up. So I went through various roles over the next 3-4 years in customer service, logistics planning, corporate business planning, etc. And then in 1999, I was asked to lead the food service packaging sales team. And that was new to me. I had no experience in sales, but I took upon the challenge. And a couple of years later, the circumstances changed, and the position opened up for the controller. And I have no background in accounting, but the new president was very impressed that I could head that department, and that was a challenge. So I took it upon as a challenge. And for 2 years, I worked as a VP controller in that organization. And then later on, they asked me to be the VP for manufacturing. So essentially, I went through several roles in 12 years, up until 2005 with this company. And every time I was offered a new opportunity, I took it as a challenge. And I looked upon it as a chance to learn and chance to make connections and to understand how the business really works, how production planning, production, quality control, customer service, logistics, business planning, corporate planning, accounting, sales, costing, pricing, how those things are connected and make up the and support a business. So although I was not doing it knowingly, but picking up every opportunity that came along my way, it helped me understand the business workings better. And I did not look for a change. So I would like to point out here that stability or staying at a company, at least in the beginning, for an extended period is a very highly desired quality in a candidate. And companies feel that they can invest in you without having to worry about employee turnover. So in 2003, my kids were growing up, and I felt a need to go back to India. And I just wanted to make sure that my kids have a better understanding of their roots. So what I did was I reached out to the network that I had built over the previous 12 years and started the research. How can I go? How can I get a job, from US to go to India? And I was very specific in my mind. I wanted to make sure that I worked for a multinational company. I was very specific that I wanted to go as an expatriate. And so I had a very specific role, specific region, and a specific company in mind. And I did my research for the next 2 years. I sent out my resumes to several companies. And ultimately, one of the person I knew from my job, who was impressed by how I had done my job, connected me to the president of a large multinational company called Alcan. And they were looking to set up a presence in India. So by 2005, I was able to get a job with Alcan Packaging. And the job was to really set up a presence in India. And they had zero presence. They did not have any employees. They did not have a company. They did not have a factory, nothing. So when I joined, I was the only employee. So although I was quote unquote managing director, Alcan Packaging India, that company didn't exist. So I had to start from scratch and register a company and start hiring employees and build a plan for setting up a factory. Now, it was a very challenging situation for me because, coming from US and having to adapt from Western style of working to the Indian way of doing things, or the ethics, or different systems that are built up in India, was very, very challenging. And but anyways, over the next 3 years, um, I built the company from grounds up, set up a factory in Haridwar, a greenfield, and extensively traveling. Every day I was traveling, either to Delhi or Calcutta or some other place in India, visiting potential customers, visiting other factories of Alcan in China, Philippines, in Thailand. Singapore was our regional headquarters. So there was a lot of traveling, and it was really starting to take a toll on me. But this entire experience, especially the setting up the greenfield, was very helpful. And years later, I would see how this helped me immensely. At the same time, I was making sure that I was building my network, my connections in the flexible packaging industry in India, and just continue to pay attention to my task at hand and focus on that. But as I said, it was a very difficult task, and the bosses, at least my immediate boss, really didn't have a very good understanding of what it takes to work in Indian environment, at least for someone coming from outside. So, one time we had a big disagreement, and I could see that I would have a hard time working with him. And in 2007, I actually resigned. And that was the first time I had done something like that. And I was with the company only 3 years, and I did not have a job in hand, but I trusted Allah that He knows best what is best for me. So started looking for another job, and it so happened that I was offered a job by the government of Saudi Arabia. They had a department that was setting up a packaging industry cluster in Riyadh, and it was very financially very attractive. So I agreed to take that job. But it was there was a 6-month gap, and as a family, we decided that for those 6 months, since we're leaving India, we're gonna go to US first, go back to US, and then in 6 months we'll then go to Riyadh. So we are back in US in early 2008, and I had 6 months of time on my hand, and there was a large Muslim population in Fort Wayne, the city we came to, and a lot of them were from not the Saudi Arabs, but Arabs from surrounding countries. And they started telling me that it was not a good option for me to go work for Saudis. They had their own reasons, they don't appreciate skilled people. They look upon you as hired help. You don't have any respect, blah, blah, blah. Allah knows what the right things were, but they kind of struck a chord with me that maybe I should not accept this opportunity. So I was talking to one of my last bosses I had at Packaging Dynamics, and he said, no, we can't let you go to Saudi. We have to keep you in US. And talk to this gentleman. He's a friend of mine. He's looking for suitable candidates. And I did. And within 3 days, they offered me a job in Fort Wayne itself. So now that was, totally unexpected. But the Saudis, in the meantime, were dragging their feet. I still didn't have my work visa done. So I told them that, I'm taking another job and I will not be moving to Riyadh. So the company I joined, Terex, was in, they manufactured construction equipment like concrete mixer trucks, concrete pavers, etc. And my experience was zero in that field. I was not a construction guy. But again, I looked upon it as an opportunity to learn new things, and I got into the details, tried to understand the business, the manufacturing process, the customers, the industry, and as the luck would have it, in 2010, the U.S. construction industry just crashed, and the overall market crashed. You would probably remember the big crash of 2010. So we had to, I was overseeing 3 businesses at that time. We had to shut down 2 of them, and we had to start laying people off. And over a period of 5 months, we laid off more than 200 people. It was a very difficult thing to do. And one thing I made sure was that I personally did each one of those layoffs. So it was not, just through HR or, you get a pink slip in the mail. I wanted to sit face to face and do this to bring as much human touch to it as possible. And I have to tell you, frankly, this was one of the toughest things I'd done in my professional career up until then. But by 2011, there was no movement in this business, and all the factories were then eventually shuttered for a while at least. And I started looking for a different job because I knew this was not sustainable. So I started looking for a different job, and there were no jobs. All the flexible packaging industry was going through the same phase. But I did not let that deter me. I continued to talk to my network, my connections, the people I had built up friendships with, and it so happened that one of the connection that I had made while working for Alcan in India, the owner of Paharpur, and I stayed in touch with him. He offered me a job. He said, we would like somebody with U.S. Working background to come to our business and take it to international standards. So my kids and my wife were reluctant to move back to India, and they were happy to be back in U.S. after 3 years in India. So that was a tough decision for me as to should I take this job or should I not take this job. And eventually, the obligation to support my family overcame that reluctance, and I decided to take the job and shuttle back and forth while the family stayed in U.S. So I started in this role back in September of 2011, and since then I've been shuttling back and forth. Sometimes 10, 12 times a year. So this is kind of a chronological or historical perspective of the different levels that I moved throughout in my life, in my professional life. Now I'll go back and see what are the things that did not work for me, okay, or I did not like. One of the things was corporate politics. Now, those of you who are in working roles, there's a political connection in every company. There's a lot of politics. people trying to get up, people trying to curry favors, and so on and so forth. And the business suffers, right? And good people suffer from that. And I had seen that at Alcan firsthand as to what that means. And I did not like it. So what I learned from that is that, keep politics out. At work, do not involve politics and religion at work. And this was my learning from the Alcan days. And then I would build upon that. Uh, I was not looking for a role as a CEO, but I knew that when I was heading the Terex business and the Paharpur business, packaging business, that I would create a culture that does not support and similar type of situations, politics and other issues that are not related to work. The other thing I didn't like was putting work before family. So I had always maintained a very clear-cut balance between work and family. And all my life, I made sure that I was involved with my kids from the day they were born until I took the job with Paharpur. And that was where I had to make a sacrifice on my work-life balance. And I lost precious years of my kids growing up from 2012 up until now. And that is a choice I had to make, but something that did not work for me, and I did not like that. Now, more importantly, what works is at the top of the list is my faith. And like I said, the firm belief that I was going to get what was good for me. And if Allah is going to give me something, nobody can take that away. And if something is not destined for me by Allah, then nobody can give it to me. So I always had that firm belief in my heart that kept me sane, that kept me focused, and helped me with all my career decisions. So for young kids who are graduating through college, my message is, don't lose hope because you've got 50, 100, 200 rejections on your jobs, or don't lose hope because you were looking for a particular job and you thought you were a great fit for that job and you did not get it. Because trust me, that there's good in that, and you will see that later on in your life. Like I said, I thought I lost a year or two starting my career, but it's not a race. Okay, you're not in competition. It's not that, oh, my friends are already doing this and that, and I don't even have a job yet. So it's not a race. It's your life, and Allah is making your life go through certain things to carve you and make you into a person that you are. Second thing I found that worked for me is the connections I made, the network. And by network, what I mean is that in every job that I had, I made sure I worked with people. I worked in helping them, even though it was not my job. Did not look at my job as this box is what I do. It is, how do I help the business? And that means helping other people, making, going out of your way, out of your functions, job functions, to help other people. And that makes a big difference. And the connections I have made over the last 30 years, I have kept them, those connections. So I still talk to the employees that I work with, in 1990. And, we're on a very good term, and you never know who is going to be helpful. Matter of fact, the ex-boss that helped me with the TERx position, I really didn't like working at that time for different reasons. But I stayed connected with him. I never burned my bridges. And in the end, he was very helpful. He not only helped me get the job with Terex, uh, he went out of the way, and he was an expert. He was an HR person in his days. Helped me with my resume, and I did not know how to write resumes. For years, I didn't have to write a resume, and he sat down with me and worked with me on those things. So you never know when the connections you make will come in helpful. And this is one thing I would tell everybody, is to make sure that you make new connections, and not for the sake of making connections on LinkedIn or this or that, but true connections with people's lives. Third thing that worked for me, um, and I would advise, is patience, sabr. Wait for the good things to come to you. Don't try to jump up and sideways for the sake of promotion or for the sake of salary hikes. Uh, that doesn't pay off. Okay, it makes you do things that are not natural to you. So be happy, be content with where you are. Have a plan for where you want to be, but don't try to take the shortcut. Okay, and never chase money. For salary hikes. If money is the objective, then it will always you'll always be discontent. I have in each of the jobs that I went through, I never asked for a specific amount of salary. Never. Whenever the interview came to the point where they said, what's your expectation? And I would always say, beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. So I may think I'm worth X, and you may think I'm worth X minus Y. So if I tell you what I expect and you have a different expectation, there'll always be discontent, because you will be thinking I'm paying you more than what you deserve, or what that person thinks. So never ask. I would tell them what my current salary is, and alhamdulillah, every time I got significant bumps, but money was never the objective. The work was. And that's my last point, is that your work matters. Your work will make the name for you, not your resume. And so put in the hard work, be focused on details. Like they say, devil's in the detail, but details is what makes you understand what your job is and what your output is supposed to be. If you're just going to skim over the surface, your output will be also similar. But if you get into the details, you put in the effort, you will be noticed, and your output will be noticed. So those are the kind of things that I would recap essentially. And everybody has a different benchmark, but this is my story. This is how I traveled in my professional career, and the things that helped me and the things that did not help me. So when I started my job, I wanted to make sure that, as a CEO, I would create an environment that is that has the learning from all the previous jobs. So I wanted to make sure the culture is different, free of politics, free of teasing people, disrespectfulness, and so on and so forth. And that's where my focus has been over the last 10 years, is to change behaviors and change cultures to, at least in my company, to a point where it's very professional. It's fun to work, and your work is the only differentiator, not your caste, religion, or politics, or anything else. So, in a nutshell, that's my uh, perspective on career. And I would love to take questions so that I can specifically see how I can help. Okay, well, I see there's a
Jazakallah khair,
few.
Nadeem bhai. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead,
What
please.
I'll do is I'll take you through the questions, and then you can address them so that you don't have to, focus on following what is there. Okay, that was very enlightening and covered a broad spectrum. And actually, it had very specific advice. While you were speaking, I was making notes about what would be the questions that one could ask. And I found that when you are done with the chronology and started the second part, I had to cross out most of the questions. So you probably read my mind. So probably that's one of the requirements of a CEO. So let's go to the questions that have been asked on the panel. Wasik Hashmi, looks like you have found an employee for your company here. What are the opportunities in flexible packaging technology in India and abroad?
Endless. There's so many opportunities in flexible packaging in India and in US and other places. To be very honest with you, we cannot find talented people. It is a very surprising thing to say that in a country with a population of 1.4 billion, we have a hard time finding talent. And one of the things I do personally is that I interview every single person that joins my company, from the sweeper to the front desk receptionist to the vice president operations. Every single position is interviewed by me. And the reason being that I want to make sure that we are hiring. It's like marriage. Once you get married, you employ for life. And I go through 600-700 interviews every year, and really am surprised and shocked at the talent level that the industry provides. Very, very little. So the opportunities are limitless. If you're talented, you're smart, and you're willing to put the work, the opportunities are limitless.
So if Wasik Hashmi bhai wants to join your company, what are the 3 important skills that you want in him?
Well, the first one would be the fit in the company. Okay, that's the first criteria. Is that individual going to fit in that company or in my company or not? And so, for example, my HR will filter out anyone who has made career moves every 2 years for last 6, 7, 8 years. If somebody has 5 companies in the last 8 years, that resume will not be considered. So stability, for a person, seriousness, that person is serious to work, is a good fit for our company. Then we can invest in that person. Once we hire somebody, I don't remember firing anybody I hired ever at Paharpur. But we take a long time to hire somebody. That, for example, a SCM head I had to hire. It took me 3 years. I interviewed for 3 years, and I then found the person. He's not quite, check boxes and all the issues, but then we have to invest in that person. And if I have to fire somebody I hired, it's actually a reflection on my ability rather than on that person. So the fit is very important. Okay. Secondly is that, the talent is important. If the person is lacking talent, then there's very difficult to overcome that. I get a lot of leads from people that, hey, this guy's looking for a job, that guy's looking for a job. And so I would go through the resume, pass it on to HR, have them talk to the individual and see, how that person is, or is a good fit or not a good fit, and what type of talent level they have. If you have those two things, I would say, yeah, we are interested in talking to you.
There you go, Wasit Bhai. Look up Paharpur website and you can apply. He also has a follow-up. What are the KPIs in sales in general? I don't know.
I would surprise you guys. Yeah, we all the companies believe in KPIs and this and that. I set up a different culture. We don't have KPIs, so I never go to our salespeople and say, "Hey, did you meet the target?" Because there is no target. Okay. So at the beginning of the year, the sales team sets up their own targets. That this year we are going to do X, and it is their own target. They may it's not turned into a KPI for them. So that there is only one KPI for the company, which is the bottom line, and that is the net income. So all the targets are based on that. Other than, of course, there's individual performance, there's safety performance. Everything gets factored by how safe their department in the company was.
Okay. The next question is somebody who is very shy, doesn't want to say his or her name. How to be sure at a very young age about a particular niche or domain?
It's very personalized thing. Okay, I'll tell you like I said, when I did my master's, it was in expert systems, which is artificial intelligence, and there were very few people doing that in US in the 80s and 90s. And I wanted to be in that field, okay, neural networks and so on and so forth. I did not want to be in a manufacturing environment. I did not want to be in a leading role and so on and so forth. But that's where Allah put me, okay? So I was, if I would have stuck that, with me that, no, this is what I'm going to do, and not look at what Allah is, which way He's pointing me, I would have lost the opportunity that I had. Now, certain people are very sure. I have a niece who was very precise to the dot as to what she wants and where she wants to go. And she has, made sure that she follows those steps exactly. So everybody's different.
True. Here's a question about your work-life balance that you talked about. There are actually two people who have asked similar questions, so I'll club them together. One of them, who wants to stay anonymous, asks the question, how to maintain the balance of tawakkal and tying the camel. Khalid Sayed phrases it as, how do you relate your work with Deen? We are spending so much time in work. How do you think you're progressing in Akhirah parallelly?
That's a very nice question. First of all, I would like to say that, I really learned what Islam is after I came to US. And, being here with Muslims from so many different countries, being part of the Muslim Student Association and the local masjid, you get different perspective. You understand what is deen and what is culture. Like in India, when we were growing up, 50% of the things which were related to culture, we thought were part of the deen. And you really start to understand what your deen is. You start to learn. Now, while at work, you have to make sure, at least as a Muslim, I do, that I'm not working in an environment which doesn't support my my values. For example, um, when I joined Paharpur, flexible packaging, the company was in debt. They were losing money. They had huge loans from bank, and they were paying interest. So one of the first things, was that we have to get out of paying and taking interest. So although it's not my company, it's owned by a non-Muslim, but I worked there. So that was one of the first things. Within 2 years, we paid off all the loans. We stopped paying interest, uh, which of course even non-Muslims love it. If you don't have to pay interest, but we stopped taking interest, which they don't love. So we said we'll take the money that we have and we'll invest it in the business. We'll do capex rather than put it in a savings or mutual funds or get interest on it. We would not actively go and look for packaging for liquor, for gutka, for cigarette packaging. So those are the type of decisions you can take in a professional environment, which are guided by your theme, but are very effective and helpful to the business.
Okay. Thank you. Here's another question. This one is more towards the business side. How to keep going with the same zeal that one has while starting up a business?
It applies to everything. How do you get up in the morning and go with the same zeal about anything, about your studies, about your college, about your jobs? But again, look at the big picture. What is our purpose in life? Why have we been sent on earth? What is our purpose? And if you know what your purpose is, then everything else falls in line. It makes it easy. Once you have the yaqeen and the faith, it helps you align in the right perspective. And like I said, every morning you get up is a fresh day and you start afresh.
Okay. Some other questions from different channels. Um, in your discussion, you talked about having gone through several functions in different companies and everything. And is that something first that you found useful for you when you moved along? And as a second step, do you think is that something that is necessary in a CEO to have gone through the various functions of a company?
When I first went along the different functions, remember they came upon as openings. Okay, so they started with quality control, and the customer service person quit. Now the company has a need. They need somebody in that position, and they need it tomorrow. And my boss says, "Hey, would you like to do that? Because Susan left, and we don't have anybody in that role." I said, "Absolutely." Now, and most of the times, I was not leaving what I was doing, but I was taking additional load upon me. And so I was not only becoming a better asset for the company. They could rely on me. They know the guy will be there to back us up. I was building my own value. So I was learning different things. And the second part of the question, as a CEO, it gives you a very unique perspective of different roles. A lot of people who have never been in sales and are CEOs they lack an understanding or empathy for that function. And to know from bottoms up as to how things work help you in decision making. If I hadn't done sales and marketing, which to be honest, I don't like. I'm also kind of shy in going out and asking people for business. But if I hadn't done that and seen the rejection the sales guys have to face on a day-to-day basis, the hardship of cold calling and so on and so forth, I would be setting up stringent KPIs for my sales team. This is the target. Every day I'm going to come and check, have you met your target or not? And so on. It just changes your perspective. But if you know all the different roles in a company.
Thank you. Amir Syed, who is actually one of the panelists, but he's a young man who just graduated with a BBA and is leading a couple of startups. He has this question: if I were to start a manufacturing unit of some product, what are some tips you had give with regards to packaging?
What are some?
So he wants to be your client. What are some tips you had give with regards to packaging? I assume he wants to be your client.
I see. Entirely depends on the product. But a lot of people in India make a mistake of starting up in flexible packaging, by the way. And almost every month, there's a new company setting up a factory for flexible packaging. And almost every month, there's a company going bankrupt in flexible packaging. So regardless of what business it is or what startup it is, make sure you've done your homework, okay, over and over and over again. And you've spoken with different people in different fields. So if, let's say you were starting a food business or a delivery business that requires packaging, make sure you talk to customers, make sure you talk to suppliers, make sure you talk to people who have worked in that industry. So get a very good understanding before you jump into starting a business.
Actually, the flexible packaging, when I saw that, I was wondering what the flexible referred to. Is the packaging supposed to be flexible, or is it flexibly usable?
It's a package that is flexible. Okay. So, for example, a Coke bottle is rigid packaging. A Coke can is a rigid packaging. A paperboard pouch of juice is flexible packaging. So it's flexible. It's made from films, plastic films, paper, foil. Most of you guys eat ketchup, So in India, there's ketchup bottle by Kisan, which is rigid. We do not make that. There is also a ketchup pouch, Kisan pouch or Chutku pouch or Maggie pouch with a little spout on the top. We make that. So we're hand wash, Lifebuoy, Dettol. You can buy pouches of those. Harpic. We're 90% market share in that category in India. So that's the difference between flexible packaging and packaging.
So when I buy ketchup, using flexible packaging, how is it better?
So just to give you an example, this is a flexible package. This is a flexible package. So there's a lot of benefits of a flexible package over rigid package. It takes a lot less energy to produce. So it's big on source reduction. It also takes less space. So we converted a paneer manufacturer from cans to one of the flexible packages. And his requirement of cans, which needed 30 trucks of cans coming in, 30 trucks to be stored in a warehouse, and then 30 trucks worth of shipment going out into one truck of the product in flexible package. So huge savings on logistics, warehouse, storage, as well as reduction in carbon footprint, You have less trucks, less diesel, less emissions. So there's a whole huge list of benefits going from rigid to flexible packaging.
Okay, so we have some more questions spouting from that. So I'll go back to our online list because we give preference to our online. There is simultaneously it's being broadcast on Facebook. So some people prefer that apparently. Here's the question. How is scrap of this flexible packaging treated? Does it go to the common scrap yard?
Okay. Now, in the manufacturing process, where we are making the packages, flexible packaging, we recycle 100% of our waste. But once the product is out in the public, for example, potato chips bag, that's flexible packaging. You see people eating Lay's or whatever, and then they'll just throw it on the road. And you see the littering on the streets. That is the difficult part, and that's where the government has stepped in and is setting up strict rules that the brand owners, in this case would be PepsiCo or Frito-Lay, the producers, which would be us, and the suppliers would be equally responsible in collecting that waste from the streets. So we have set up collections where we pay the rag boys, the collectors on the street, to pick up the waste. We pay them for it, and then we get it recycled.
And that can be recycled?
Well, it depends. A lot of it can be recycled if it is it doesn't have polyester layer on it. So if it has polypropylene, single family layers, it can be recycled. If it has multiple layers, then it still can be recycled, but it is a little more difficult to recycle. There are a lot of opportunities coming up in recycling those. It's being now converted into mixing with the asphalt to create roads. It is also used in cement kilns to provide extra calorific value in burning.
Okay, because nowadays everybody is talking about this recycling and the greenhouse gases and climate change, and coincidentally, Nahida Tasneem, another young person from the panelists, these are all members of our team, and they are doing an excellent job. She says, though I am far away from packaging and stuff, I am curious about adverse effects of plastic bags on the environment. Is that it takes many years for them to decompose. What are the alternatives being used in packaging to protect the environment?
Very good question. By the way, my personal opinion about something that takes a lot of years to decompose is a little different. That plastic, in my opinion, is the perfect material ever invented by humans because it doesn't decompose quickly. And that is what provides the benefits. So if you take a flexible pouch and you pack hand wash or any aggressive liquid on it, your package is not decomposing. Okay, so you can be assured that this is something that's providing me long life. All the clothes that you're wearing today, they have polyester in it. I mean, there's the glasses you're wearing, anything you look around has plastic in it because of that specific reason that it takes a long time to decompose. Now, that itself should not be a bad thing. But when you litter and when you have plastic in the ocean, when you have plastic causing nuisance from that perspective, becomes a problem. Plastic itself is not a problem. So if you take this bag of plastic and you leave it on Mother Earth or bury it in Mother Earth, in a million years, it will not cause any problem to the environment. It's not leaching gases. It's not leaching poison into the system. So the plastic itself is not poisonous or harmful. It is the way we deal with it that is harmful or has to be corrected.
Okay. Uh, we just got a question from Farhan Khan, which is related. I don't know whether you have already answered it, but let me ask. Can we use biodegradable plastic packaging, which can be environmentally friendly?
Yes, although it is in a very early stages and there are not very economical options available. It's very expensive and the users are not willing to pay for it. At the same time, the end result is still very closely contested because although we say it's biodegradable, but the degraded portion is still nanoparticles of plastic, and they're still there. Although they're not doing any harm, but they've changed the from a film into nanoparticles. But the answer is yes. That's still a long ways from complete development, but that's where a lot of resources are right now. It's not economical and it's not 100% yet.
Okay. One of the interesting things that I noticed while you were talking about your first trip to India was you are really also a startup founder before startups were popular. Can you talk a little bit about, you spoke about the actual ways of the mechanics that you went through and the things you did. Can you talk a little bit about the emotional impact when you work in startups, when you, start a startup, so to say?
Sure. When I started with Alcan Packaging, and when I left Alcan Packaging, I promised myself that I will never, ever again do a startup or a greenfield. And I also said in my while I was talking that it was immense experience that would come in handy later on. So earlier this year, we started a greenfield new factory for Paharpur 3P in Sri City. And I told my team, I said, I have gone through this, and trust me, it is so stressful that I had promised myself I will never go through it again. And here I am going to, but I will make sure that I am the least reason of stress to you guys because I know how stressful it can be. And when I was doing it, what my bosses did caused me stress. Really, just the expectations which were just not logical and not natural. So you just got to stay tuned with the reality and be empathetical and just make sure that you are not the cause of stress.
Okay. I had one more question. One often hears that resiliency is a key quality for a CEO, and your story is an example of that. How important do you think is it to be resilient, to really take on that leadership role where you become, the leader and you're responsible for a lot of people?
Yeah, I think the key thing is you can't do as I say, not as I do. Okay, when you're in a leadership role, people are watching you all the time. You may notice or you may not notice, but everybody is watching you. What you say, what you do, how you act, what are the priorities you set, and everything has an impact. So you have to be very clear in your head on your values. Okay, what is your value system? How would you want everybody to be? And then you have to live that, because if you do not, trust me, it's just going to be words. You'll never see the results on the ground.
Okay, there's one question which popped up, and that's a very interesting and to many youngsters important. You said you will talk about getting married without a job in hand. Would like to hear that perspective.
Okay. this is a common theme these days, right? You say, hey, why are you not married? And say, oh, I don't even have a job. And my point there was that when I was getting married, I didn't even think for a fraction of a second as to how will I support my wife? How will where will this come from? Where will that come from? You know, and I would say now, looking back, that it was just my faith in Allah that did not even cross my mind, that where the risk will come from, because although I didn't look at it in that exact sense, but it showed in my actions that I had a firm belief that this is something beyond me. Okay, I'm not the one who gave birth to myself in this world, and I'm not the one who makes the risk for me every day. Somebody else provides that, and the moment you have that truth hits home, your actions follow the same pattern. That Allah is there to take care of it. If He wants to give it to you, nobody can stop it, and if He's not going to give it to you, then nobody can give it to you. So why worry about having a job before getting married? Because Allah didn't say go get a job first before you get married. It is His promise that I will give the risk to whom I give, and when I give it without any count.
MashaAllah. Yeah. Farhan Khan is asking a question to which I think you have responded. Is there any failure in your early career? If there is, please elaborate.
It's my entire career is full of failures. I have elaborated, I think, pretty much, but starting from going to a engineering college, I failed to even get into any entrance exams. I failed in getting a job in India. I failed in getting a job in US for months. And of course, continue to fail. I failed to keep the job alive at Terex. The letting go of 200 plus people was a big failure on my part. Not that I control the market industry, but I those are failures that will be showing up on my end. So yeah, my life has been full of failures, but I try to learn from my failures, and I look upon them as lessons, as learnings, rather than failures. Because if I tried something and I did not succeed, then that's not a failure as long as I continue doing it till I succeed. But if I give up, then that's a failure.
True, true. Very well said. As someone who has taught students, and Professor Paharpur can attest to that, everybody fails. There's nobody who has never failed. Show me someone who has never failed. I will show you someone who has done nothing. And with that, we will go to the last set of questions, which are basically similar. And I will propose an answer. How can an experienced professional apply for a job at Paharpur 3P? Can't find the career option on website. And Vasi Hashmi asks, please share speaker's email and contact. I did visit the website. Perhaps there was no career options, but there is a contact email. Do you think that I can share with the public contact at Paharpur 3P, or would you like to give a different email?
That email can be used as well. If somebody is looking for HR, then it's just hr@paharpur3p.com.
Okay. hr@paharpur3p.com. Okay. I have typed it in the, oops, I missed the dot. Yeah. Let me correct it, because I don't want posterity, if it sees this, to see that I made a mistake. Okay. What is the message to the young generation? Well, that's what we talked about for the last 1.5 hours, and we are close to finishing. Would you want to add a line or two here, sir?
Again,
What is the
don't give up.
message today?
Yep, don't give up, and always remember your values. Just define who you are by your values. Always tell the truth. Always, never lie. Whichever condition you're put in, do not shortcut your own system. Do not shortcut your own deen. Do not shortcut your own value, because then you are failing yourself. So stay true to your values, stay true to your deen, and inshallah, success will be yours.
Thank you, sir. And with that, I'll invite Kashif Bhai to thank us all.
Assalamu alaikum once again. Yeah, you're able to hear me, Khalil Bhai?
Yes, I am.
First of all, I want to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for uniting us together here on this platform. On behalf of AMP Web Talk team, I would like to thank our today's speaker, Mr. Mohammed Nadeem, for the brief information about his CEO's journey and the challenges he faced and the opportunities he got throughout his journey. Your story was quite interesting and motivating, sir. Thank you for answering the questions asked by the participants patiently. Finally, I would like to thank all the participants for your participation. Hope you got benefited from today's session, and I request all the participants to attend our future web talks and share the same with your known groups and friends. Jazakallahu khair for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah Kashif Bhai. I will now invite Professor Waqar Asrar Saab, who I have known for the last 20 years. And in my stint at Malaysia, he's a very senior professor, and he's on the core professors group of AMP. He has been during that 20 years, except for probably the first 6 months when I didn't meet him, a guide and a mentor for me, and someone we all used to look up to in Malaysia. Professor Waqar Saab, please give us your closing remarks and offer dua.
Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi everybody. Jazakallah khairan. It was very, very nice nice talk given by our CEO. A lot of things to learn. So I am very, actually I asked him and he very kindly agreed. I hope whoever has listened will write down the pointers and the lessons and learn from them. All those practical experiences are very, 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 very valuable to everybody. Inshallah, it will be useful for the younger generation and also for people who are currently working. We always learn from each other. We are all teachers. We teach each other through our experiences. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So that is all I have to say. I hope I haven't forgotten anything. My memory is not very good anymore. So I want to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through a very simple dua, so that perhaps this is the last leg of this meet. Also it's getting late. Jazakallah khairan.
I am speaking on mute. Jazakallah khair, Professor Waqar Saab and Nadeem Saab. It's past midnight in Malaysia right now. So thank you very much for staying up with us, especially since you have to travel tomorrow. Tawakkaltu ala Allah. And with that, we will close now. Jazakallah khair, everyone.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.